she was always there to help. So like, I don't know how many times I approached mom with like last minute panic, oh crap, I've got a huge school assignment due tomorrow and I haven't even started it. And so we'd put together a book report or a diorama or something, or obviously anytime I got injured, you went to mom instead of dad, because dad would just say put some ice on it, but mom would give you sympathy.
For me, it was crystal clear that family was important to her. Mom would always go out of her way to organize activities and plan events so that we could be together as a family. I do remember that when we went to Disneyland for, I think Dan and I were 16 or 17, Mom was really, she talked with us like while we were driving in the car, maybe to the airport or something like that. And she got kind of emotional saying, we want to make sure to have some good family vacations together before Dan and Ike, go on their missions, and then, we won't really all be in the same place at the same time living together after that.
There was such a lack of dysfunction in our household, which is, I guess, a weird thing to say, but, going to friends' houses or seeing other people in our ward growing up or seeing different friends and stuff, as you get older, you start to kind of pick up on that stuff a little bit more, and you start to see how stuff that made life more difficult for friends and neighbors and different people growing up that we didn't have to deal with, honestly. I saw with my friends who also exhibited the same thing, that their parents were a little bit more up in their face about stuff, but she was very conscientious of our needs and very respectful, I guess.
She and Dad not only never spanked me or Dave that we can remember at all, but also never even yelling. I have no memories of Mom ever yelling. I don't really remember Dad yelling either. I just have so much respect for that intense self-control that must have taken when we're being obnoxious or whatever, screaming at each other, the kids screaming at each other, and they still kept their heads. That's very impressive. I'm genuinely so grateful to have grown up in a stable household, that all our needs were met and that I felt very loved.
One thing I noticed about her is just how much she took time to reach out to people, to compliment people. There was any number of times. It could be at church, it could be at home, it could be somewhere in the community. I remember one time being at some political thing, and there was someone I knew she didn't really like. She disagreed with this lady, but she still took her time to smile, to go up to her, shake her hand, and be nice and chat a little bit. So she did this with a lot of people, and to go out of her way to talk to them. I remember another time she said to herself, I ought to call my brother Brian. It's been a while since I chatted with him. So she called him, and this must have been before cell phones were more ubiquitous, because his wife Joni answered the phone, and she was, Joni, how's it going? And she just had a long conversation with Joni, and I had no problem doing that transition. So, and complimented her, talked about all the great things she knew about her. So Mom really did that, and I guess it kind of goes along with it. She's just one to really notice people and want to take time she worries about people. She wonders how they're doing.
I genuinely have no memories of Mom gossiping with her friends or about friends. I remember her talking about a book group that she had joined because she wanted to read, but that at the book group it just turned into mostly just a big gossip fest. And so after maybe a couple tries, she just decided it wasn't for her. I thought, I want to be like that, to not say negative things about my friends when they're not around, or people I know, that things that would hurt them, if they were to know about it.
She made things fun. Like when we had holidays or vacations or random celebrations, earlier on in my childhood, we didn't have a ton of money, but that we still had lots of fun celebrations. Mom found a way to make lots of things fun.
How generous she was, not just with her time, but with her material possessions. She, while she wouldn't give us exactly everything that we asked for, I mean, no parent should, if it was within her power, and if it was reasonable, she would give it to us. Her needs always took a back seat to our needs and wants. I can remember an example of going to the fridge, checking it out, and seeing a half-finished caffeine-free Diet Coke in there, which isn't even very good. I didn't like it very much, but it was soda, so I wanted it. And I asked her for it, and she said, yeah, sure, that's fine. You can go ahead and finish it off. I didn't know how important it was to her to finish it if she was looking forward to drinking it later on. No idea. But she had no reservations, with sharing, what she had with me. I gotta say, myself being a parent, I'm not that way. I mean, there are some times when there's something I want to finish, and I tell the kids that that's off limits. But she was never like that. She always was willing to let us, share in her material possessions. And I don't think I noticed that as much at the time. I did a little bit, but noticed it a lot more later.
She was always involved, and not just in our lives, certainly in our lives. I mean, when you have 6 children and you're a good mother like she was, you don't have much time for other things. But I specifically remember being involved in things that were beyond just our family. She would take us to different cultural events. She would take us to different religious events, not even of our religion. She would take us to different religious areas and religious places because she was working as a columnist for I think it was the Journal. So she would involve us in some of the places she would go to write some of the columns that she would write.
She was very generous with her time. I also think she seemed very steady. She didn't seem easily ruffled. I think that's part of the reason why I felt so safe around her emotionally. And I don't even have memories of Mom complaining. I'm sure she had things that bothered her sometimes, but she just tried to present her best self all the time and tried to be grateful for the good.
She made it look easy how much she had to transition to different roles in regard to our upbringing, I guess. It was, the very, very regular staple. She's at home with 6 kids kind of a thing, but then as we got older and I was, one of the only ones remaining, seeing her just, I guess, evolve in a way where she put her focus towards other things that were positive, and she did a good job of using her time well to continue to grow as a person.
Anytime I broke something, I'd go to Mom. A favorite toy or something that was important, like, oh crap, Mom would help me fix it. And of course, multiple times when I had fights with my friends. I remember one time specifically, oh boy, I was in big trouble. I broke Corey O'Brien's glasses because we got in a snowball fight, and for some reason the teams turned around to where it was me and one other person and 20 kids against us too, so we were just running. So I hid around the corner, and when Corey O'Brien came running, I punched him in the face and broke his glasses. And so I went to Mom, and she had to talk to Corey's mom. But anyway, she fixed it. So that was the first thing, is that you could go to Mom with anything.
School got really stressful for me when I, probably 7th or 8th grade on. She was never harsh with me with my struggles with schooling. And she could have been, but she was always patient. And I remember this one time, the anxiety was just incredible. It was through the roof, and I was so miserable. And I had put off this project that I needed to get done for a class, I think in 8th grade. And I felt just paralyzed by the ADHD, and like I couldn't begin. When she realized how bad it was and how far I had procrastinated, she didn't even berate me for procrastinating. She just sat down and we just got to work, and she stayed steady with me until I got it done. I'm really grateful that she just loved me through it as I was wired. That was really good of her.
I also remember getting up really early. I can't remember what time she woke us up, but it was still dark outside. This would happen, maybe a couple times a year. And we would get up, and for an hour or two in the morning, we would all work on putting together sack lunches. We'd put together 100 sack lunches. I don't know how many it would be, but our whole table would be full of them. And somebody was on the apples, someone was on the sandwiches, someone was on the napkins, and we would spend all that time in the morning just filling them up over and over and over and over again, and then we would take them over to the homeless shelter. She was always really involved and wanted to just do good. She wanted to be a help and a blessing to those within her sphere of influence, and she always was.